So, one particular era of the Archie Sonic comics that I've kind of talked about before, and others have talked about in reviews and retrospectives, either here on YouTube, podcasts, or they've just written them down and talked about them on message boards or places like DeviantArt, is what's known as basically the brief high school experiment. Now, this experiment, if you will, or this portion era of the Archie Sonic comics began around issue 94. Basically, it was alluded to, if not hinted at, that things were changing in continuity, in story, if you will, before that, around issues 93, 92, 91, and so on, going backwards. This does take place, I will say, not that far after the Sonic Adventure adaptation that they did, where you had Sonic, Sally, Bunnie, and all of them, along with a redesigned Amy Rose, going to Station Square to basically help, bring that adaptation to life. Now, what's interesting about this was during the Karl, that's Karl, Karl Bollars, that's Bollars, Karl Bollars' run as a head writer, or at least one of the lead writers in the book. And apparently he wanted to try something a little different with the characters. Now, this experiment ran for like several issues. It would be something that we would be seeing once in a while. It would be revisited in a backup story with Tails and Amy, and so on. But it was a little bit of an experiment, like I said, that they wanted to try to, I guess, appeal to the fan base that was growing up at that time. Because, like I said previously, when Ken Penders was on board, one of his intentions, as years went on during his stay there, was to mature the book and basically allow it to grow up along with its audience. And Karl, when he came on board to take over, while Ken was focusing on the Knuckles comics and some of the stories there, as well as some other projects in the comic industry that he was working on, Karl basically, I guess, respected what Ken was doing and decided to continue it, but in his own way. And one of his own ways, I should say, was the high school experiment. Because I guess one of the things that we never got a chance to see the characters participate in, even during the Sat AM run, was being in school. So by going and taking this directive to do that, in his own way, that's what Karl decided to do. And I guess Ken was on board with it as well as, yeah, go ahead and do it. Let's see what happens. But like I said, it's an experiment that, didn't last very long. But the reason it was also done was, like I said, to help the comic grow up a little bit, and also to appeal to that I should say, to that teen demographic that had grown up with the comic, years prior, that were getting more into that dramatic kind of storytelling that a lot of teens, even during my teen years, were attracted to. Like, anything that was dramatic and goth, or like, would just, keep your attention in a sense, kind of like a thriller, like, mystery kind of thing, appealment to that demographic. That's basically the reason this was done. And part of the reason this was done was to create that drama, to create that atmosphere that we had seen in every other kind of media that would appeal to the teens, like things like like, let's say, for example, the Twilight Saga, the I Know What You Did Last Summer kind of stuff. Maybe not on a horror perspective when it came to that, the one I just mentioned, but basically more along the lines of, like I said, a Twilight kind of deal, a Titanic 1997 kind of deal. You get the idea. And part of that drama and part of that teen drama that he wanted to throw in there, and investment into the teen demographic, was to begin the genesis, if you will, of a love triangle with Sonic, Mina, and Sally. And what was interesting about that love triangle is, you know, even though Sonic, in story, Sonic, Bunnie, Rotor, you know, Tails, Amy, all of them were accepting of the fact that, okay, you know, they're trying to get us back into some kind of normalcy to where, hey, we're teenagers, we should be teenagers, we should act like teenagers, you know, not warriors on a battlefield and all that. You know, to kind of add to that, like I said, to that teen drama, that love triangle that was part of it, we find out in the story, basically towards the end of the story, that instead of Sally being there with them, you know, as part of, you know, as part of going to school and all that with them, you know, being in the same classes with them and everything, we find out that she has been advised to have private lessons at the castle. You know, she's been advised to have private lessons at the castle, and that it was basically her brother that, you know, advised this. Or so we would think it was her brother, but as some of the issues that follow up would kind of hint at, it wasn't exactly her brother that made that call. And of course, because of that, this left the door open for Mina Mongoose, who we got introduced to post issue 75, around 78, something like that. It would open the door for her to try to take the spot of Sally, try to become the love interest of Sonic. And part of this was because she had discovered that as a mongoose, she had super speed as well. So, you know, she basically felt that, hey, if me and Sonic both have super speed, that makes us the perfect couple. That makes us the perfect match. But again, this is all being done because, in story, because, you know, the appealment to the teen demographic, that, you know, they wanted to try to, you know, get invested in the comic, that had grown up with the comic since they were kids. You know, they wanted to try to keep that, you know, same fan base that were now teens, you know, still, you know, interested in reading the stories by going in this direction, I should say. You know, so that's basically one of the reasons, if not one of the main reasons, the high school experiment, brief high school error, if you will, of the Archie Sonic comics, you know, came to pass. And like I said, we find out that, you know, obviously it wasn't, you know, entirely Elias, Sally's brother, who was taking over at the time temporarily for his father, who had fallen ill. Basically, he couldn't really, you know, rule like he used to until later on. Basically, Elias was taking, you know, like I say, had taken over his dad's role as ruler, as temporary ruler of the kingdom. So to basically get some advisement, he decided to rely on Jeffrey St. John. And this ended up being a mistake because, again, like we see, or like we find out, I should say, in, you know, as the issues went on, that Sally not being allowed to attend school with Sonic, with Bunnie, with Rotor, and all them, was not really an Elias call. Even though Elias is credited for it, it's not really his call. Instead, it's Jeffrey's call. And you can kind of tell that by the fact that when Sonic, who's used to going to the castle without a problem, seeing Sally, see how things are going, you know, there's an issue where Jeffrey doesn't let him in, and he basically asked him, do you have an appointment? And Sonic's like, well, when do I need an appointment and everything? And Jeffrey's answer is, you know, well, you need an appointment. She is royalty after all, and he slams the door in his face. And a lot of fans, including myself, you know, kind of figured out that what this really was in continuity and in the story was Jeffrey taking advantage of an opportunity, not just an advantage to, you know, insert his own power and will, you know, and influence onto the kingdom, but his chance one more time, one last time to get with Sally, to be with Sally, because he, was in love with Sally just as much as Sonic was. So basically looking at this as an opportunity of, hey, not just spreading my influence to get the kingdom running the way I think it should, but here's my chance to also finally win the heart of the woman I love and get her away from this, blue blur, if you will. And this didn't help because Sally felt basically very isolated. She's like, why am I not out there with my friends, exploring, having fun, going to school? And she would have to resort to sneaking out to see what was going on. And this is what, added to that dramatic, romance conflict, because there was a moment where she caught Mina kissing Sonic, and Sonic is completely off guard, like, basically, Mina kissing him, catches Sonic completely off guard, and he's like, what, and he has to push her away, and Sally doesn't notice him pushing her off, that being Mina, and Sonic being like, what are you doing? And everything. So yeah, this high school era experiment, if you will, lasted for, like I said, several issues, and and the love triangle that came out of it, basically, the love triangle that came out of it, what I'm trying to say, basically did get resolved with Sally and Sonic getting back together in issue 123 that came out in July, I think, what was it, 2003 or something like that, basically the month of my birthday, which I was excited about, I will admit that. But this is basically why they went to the high school era route, why they went that direction, if you will. At least Karl did. And there are moments in the book where you can kind of tell in story, some of the characters were, not happy about, let's say, this whole love situation that was going on. For example, Sonic introduces Mina to Bunnie because they're all in the same class, and Bunnie basically gives her like the cold shoulder, like she goes, howdy. It's like, not like the traditional Bunnie thing, like, oh, howdy, how you doing, nice to meet you kind of deal. No, it's more like, howdy, like, very like, like mistrustworthy, if you will, very mistrustworthy of Mina. And somebody actually asked one of the people at Archie Comics during the Sonicgrams why Bunnie had done that, and their answer was Bunnie knows Sonic is Sally's gal, and that she doesn't like the idea that Mina's trying to move in on that. Pretty much, that's pretty much the answer they gave him. But yeah, this is something that didn't last too long, but would get revisited on several occasions. Like I said, there's a backup story that happened, many issues later with Tails and Amy, and Amy was under, and the plot point, I should say, about that short story, that backup story, was that Amy was under the impressions of the fact that, hey, I look older, now I look older and everything now, I'm going to be able to go and be with the older kids, be in the older class, be in the, higher up classes and everything. Nope. We find out that despite the fact that she had aged herself up, she was, physically, that basically reality-wise, story-wise, and mentally-wise, she was still the same age as Tails. So that pretty much, kind of put a kink in her plans, if you will, because what she thought she had pulled off, to go on the mission doing the Sonic Adventure adaptation was going to pay off in the long run, but then she finds out, yeah, you may have aged yourself physically, but reality-wise, you're still the same age, as Tails. Thus, you're in the same classes as him, you're going to do the same things he does in school, end of story. So, yeah, basically it still gets, it still got, still got revisited, like I said, on several occasions, but it was one of the most interesting, if not weird, moments and errors, in the Archie books, because, again, this ran for like several issues and still got revisited here and there, due to the fact that, again, my opinion, from my personal point of view, Ken and Karl, mostly Karl, wanted to help continue growing up the book along with the fan base. with the same fan base, I should say, that grew up on it originally. They wanted to keep that fan base by growing the book up along with them and basically following the very popular tropes at the time of, okay, what are teens attracted to, what's appealing to the teens, and going with that. So yeah, I just wanted to come on here, talk about the weirdness, if not the time that basically the Archie Sonic books decided to go the high school route. But let me know what you guys think. Comment down below, live chat during the premiere, like the video, check out my Teespring store, check me out at BWOS's Discussion at all your favorite audio podcast locations like Spotify, Anchor.fm, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio. Most of them with the exception of Pandora. Still trying to work on that situation. So check out that audio podcast if you want to. Also check out my Patreon at BWRosis. We've got 2 tiers up right now. $1 tier helps support the site, my page if you will, and a $3 tier also supports it, gets you a shout out, and also gives you access to exclusive content you can't get anywhere else except for there, and for a limited time when it goes up over on DeviantArt. And that's about it. But yeah, just thought I'd come on here, guys, and also check me out at BWRosis on Vimeo as well. But again, I just wanted to come on here, guys, give you my thoughts on probably what was one of the weirdest errors, one of the weirdest brief errors in the Archie Sonic books, the high school error. So let me know what your thoughts are down below. I do apologize if I paused once in a while to kind of think about what I was going to say. This is what happens when you do things unscripted, if you know what I mean. But again, let me know what your thoughts are. Comment down below, live chat during the premiere, like the video, check out the Teespring store, and everything else I just mentioned about. And I will talk to you all later.